Hello everyone, this is Nick Perry of Schaeffer's Investment Research with your chart slideshow for Thursday, December 21st. Today I am back with my weekly check of the broad market indices. In last week's chart slideshow, basically we're talking about the uptrends being intact. One of the things I pointed out were these little lows here on the SPX and the Dow, the Comp, and the RUT, basically saying that those were going to be the levels, the longer term levels I was watching. On the SPX I pointed out, this little bit of a range here, and we've got the similar setup of a little bit longer term nature on the RUT, and that's what I said I was looking at. So let's go ahead and turn to this week's charts. When we look at this week's charts, we see that there's a bit of variation here. The SPX actually is now holding above that little mini range. Last week we were talking about holding above there, and now this week we see a little breakout and a little pull back to the top of that. Meanwhile, you look at the RUT, and it's still holding this breakout, from the October, the top of that October, early November range, but it's hasn't been making much forward progress. Last week I mentioned the 50-day moving average, and that's where we see the low was this week. Pulled back. That was the side of the low there. When we look at the Dow, you see that it's sort of mirroring the SPX. Last week we noted that it was having a little bit of trouble, and it actually broke above the top of that range. The Comp is actually holding above the top of that. As far as overall takeaways, you can pretty much guess what I'm going to say. The uptrends remain intact. Basically we talked about the fact that this short-term moving average, this 50-day moving average, is, a straight line higher, and that's just a reflection of the trend that we're seeing. There's been very steady buying coming in. Earlier in the blog today I mentioned that, I was expecting the action, the participation to dry up a little bit. We've got the long weekend coming up here, and then, we roll through the next 4 days, and then we've got another long weekend. So basically, traders are starting to wrap the year up. So we've got basically people moving to the sidelines, not really looking to make a lot of big moves. So, in situations like that, I tend to look less at the technicals. I'll still keep an eye on them to stay abreast of what's going on. But if we saw, one big down day or one big up day, I wouldn't read too much into it, just for the standpoint that, it doesn't take all that much money relative to normal action, to push things. So, the next few days I'll be keeping a loose eye on the action, but I probably wouldn't be making any major calls based on it. But that's, I guess as always, it's subject to change depending on what news comes out. So stay tuned to the blog for further updates.